Ain't. Just enough to identify the owner, he told himself. He opened the notebook carefully, trying to avoid reading more than necessary. The pages displayed flowing entries, written in careful handwriting. The author's name appeared at the top of several pages. Lyra. He scanned for identification markers, but found mostly personal thoughts. Each entry described her attempts to present an idea to the station council, a proposal to create a shared sanctuary where species of all sizes and status could live without strict hierarchies. She wrote about being ignored during meetings. She described standing among tall and powerful representatives who spoke over her. She wrote about returning to her quarters, feeling invisible. Elias felt his chest tighten. He flipped a page unintentionally and read another line. They say cooperation is inefficient. They say compassion wastes resources. Maybe they are right. Maybe I do not belong here. He closed the notebook quickly. That's enough, he whispered. He placed the notebook back inside his tool bag, deciding he would locate the owner immediately. He felt uneasy carrying something so personal, but leaving it hidden in the wall felt worse. As he packed up his tools, voices echoed faintly from a nearby corridor. A group of alien officials walked past, speaking about upcoming council changes. Elias caught fragments of conversation. Restructuring smaller species housing, resource redistribution, efficiency measures. He frowned. Those phrases rarely meant good news for weaker communities. He finished his repairs and began walking toward a public terminal where he could search for Lyra's identification. The station was busy as usual. Traders moved cargo through floating platforms. Children of different species ran through open plazas while security drones hovered silently overhead. Elias stopped near a large window that overlooked the stars. For a moment he simply stood there, thinking about the diary's words. He knew he should not feel responsible. He had found something by accident. Returning it would be enough. Yet he could not ignore the feeling that someone's hope was slipping away unnoticed. He shook his head and continued walking. At the terminal, he searched for the name Lyra. Several results appeared, but one matched the species symbol on the notebook. A small profile displayed her image, a young alien woman with soft features and bright eyes that seemed thoughtful and cautious at the same time. Her species was listed as minor diplomatic classification, meaning they held little political power. Her occupation was marked as junior cultural researcher. He noted her assigned sector and started toward it. As he walked, he noticed how differently species interacted. Some groups moved confidently, surrounded by assistants and guards. Others stayed close to walls, avoiding attention. Humans were scattered among them, sometimes welcomed, sometimes watched carefully. Elias reached the sector listed on her profile. It was quieter than the central plaza, filled with small living units and research rooms. He hesitated outside a door marked with her identification code. He raised his hand to knock, then paused. What would he say? Sorry, I accidentally read your private diary. He winced. Instead of knocking, he decided to wait nearby. Perhaps she would return soon. Minutes passed. Then he saw her. Lyra walked slowly down the corridor, carrying a small data pad. Her posture was tired, her shoulders slightly lowered as if weighed down by invisible pressure. She stopped near her door, hesitating before opening it. Elias watched carefully. She looked exactly like the image from the profile, but more fragile somehow, like someone trying hard to appear strong. He stepped forward. Excuse me, he said gently. She turned, surprised but polite.
Yes, I think this belongs to you, he said, holding out the notebook. Her eyes widened instantly.
She took it quickly, holding it close to her chest. Where did you find this? In a maintenance panel, he said honestly. I didn't know it was there. Relief crossed her face, followed by embarrassment. Thank you, she said softly. I thought I lost it forever. He nodded, unsure whether to mention that he had read part of it. Guilt tugged at him, but he sensed that admitting it immediately might hurt her more. "I'm Elias," he said after a moment. "Lyra," she replied, though he already knew. An awkward silence followed. "Well, I should go," he said. She nodded politely and entered her room. The door closed gently behind her. Elias stood there for a moment longer, then turned away. He told himself that returning the notebook should be the end of it. He had done the right thing. Yet as he walked back toward the maintenance sector, the words from the diary echoed in his mind. A dream ignored, a voice unheard, a person ready to give up. That night, as he worked alone repairing another damaged system, he found himself thinking about the abandoned sectors of the station, places no one cared about anymore. He remembered old schematics he had seen showing unused habitat zones. An idea began forming quietly in his thoughts. He tried to ignore it, but humans were known for one thing above all. Once an idea took root, it was hard to let go. Somewhere else on the station, Lyra opened her diary again. She paused before writing, thinking about the human technician who had returned it. There had been kindness in his voice, something calm and steady. She wrote slowly. "Today, someone returned what I thought I lost. Maybe small things still matter." Back in the maintenance corridor, Elias stared at a map of the station structure. He traced a finger along the lines marking unused space. He did not know why he cared so much about a stranger's dream. But he knew one thing clearly. He could not pretend he had never read those words. And maybe, just maybe, he did not have to. Elias tried to return to his normal routine, but something inside him had changed. Every corridor he walked through felt different now, as if he was seeing the station with new eyes. Before, he noticed broken systems and faulty panels. Now he noticed people, especially those who walked quietly, avoiding attention, just like Lyra had. Helios Ring was built to represent unity, but the deeper Elias looked, the more he saw invisible lines dividing species by status and power. Large trading zones were filled with confident voices and bright lights, while smaller species stayed in dimmer sectors where resources were limited. The council claimed everything was balanced, but reality felt more complicated. During his shifts, Elias kept thinking about the abandoned sectors. Long ago, when he first arrived on Helios Ring, he had explored old schematics out of curiosity. Entire habitat zones existed that no one used anymore. Some had outdated environmental systems, others lacked modern safety approvals, but structurally many were still strong. The memory of Lyra's dream stayed with him. He told himself he was only curious from an engineering perspective. Maybe he just wanted to see if such a space could exist. That was how humans often justified their first steps, as simple curiosity. After finishing a repair assignment, he redirected his path toward one of those forgotten areas. The entrance was sealed behind a maintenance lock, but his clearance allowed access. The door opened slowly, with a soft hiss. Inside, the air felt stale but stable. Lights flickered weakly as emergency systems activated. Dust floated gently in the low gravity. The space was enormous, larger than he remembered. Curved walkways, empty platforms, and areas that could easily become gardens or meeting halls. He walked slowly, imagining how it might look alive again. "This place isn't dead," he whispered. He scanned the systems. Power lines were damaged but repairable. Water circulation units needed recalibration. Environmental regulators were outdated, but functional. It was not impossible. The thought startled him. He shook his head and turned away, reminding himself that this was not his responsibility. He was just a maintenance worker. Projects like this required council approval, resources, political support. Still, he saved the schematic file to his personal device. Later that day, he crossed paths with Lyra again near a public observation deck. She noticed him first and offered a small nod of greeting. "Hello, Elias," she said quietly. "Hi," he replied. They stood side by side for a moment, watching distant ships move slowly against the stars. Silence stretched between them, but it was not uncomfortable. I wanted to thank you again, she said, for returning my diary. You're welcome. She hesitated, then added, It means more than you know. He sensed something heavy behind her words, but did not press. Instead, he asked, How has your research been going? She smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in her eyes. Slowly. Some ideas are difficult for others to accept.
He nodded, understanding more than she realized. What kind of ideas? He asked gently.
She looked at him carefully, as if deciding whether to trust him. A shared habitat, she said finally. A place where status does not matter as much, where smaller species feel safe. That sounds important, he said. Others say it sounds unrealistic, she replied. Elias felt a strange mix of hope and nervousness. Hearing her speak about it confirmed what he had read, though she did not know he already understood the depth of her struggle. Sometimes unrealistic ideas just need a different approach, he said. She looked at him curiously. Humans say things like that often. He laughed, softly. We like fixing things people give up on. They talked longer than either expected. Lyra spoke about cultural exchange programs and small communities that succeeded despite lack of support. Elias listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions but avoiding revealing that he had already read about her dream. After they parted ways, Elias felt more certain than before. That night, he returned to the abandoned sector. This time, he brought tools. He told himself he was only testing systems, checking possibilities. He began repairing minor faults, reconnecting power lines, cleaning sensor grids, resetting old processors. Hours passed quickly. Each small success made the space feel less forgotten. While working, he recorded notes. Environmental system, repairable with moderate effort. Water flow capacity, adequate for plant life. Structural integrity, stable. The more he worked, the more he realized the project was possible. Not easy, but possible. Over the next few days, he continued visiting during off hours. He repaired lighting panels, restored small sections of flooring, and cleaned dust from control stations. The area slowly transformed from abandoned to promising. Eventually, another human maintenance worker noticed his unusual schedule. You've been disappearing a lot, said Mara, a fellow technician. Elias hesitated before showing her the space. Her eyes widened. You're rebuilding this? Just testing systems, he said carefully. She smiled knowingly.
Humans never just test things. Instead of questioning him further, she picked up a tool and began helping Howl.
Soon 2 more humans joined after hearing about the project. They were curious, excited by the challenge of bringing life back to something forgotten. Word spread quietly among human workers. They did not ask for permission first. They started small, fixing, cleaning, improving. Meanwhile, Lyra sensed something strange happening on the station. Maintenance crews moved differently. Small groups gathered in unused corridors. She overheard rumors about an abandoned sector showing unexpected activity. Curiosity pulled her toward the location. When she arrived, the entrance door was slightly open. Warm light spilled into the corridor. She stepped inside slowly. What she saw made her stop completely. The empty space she had once studied in old station records was changing. Lights glowed steadily. Plants had been placed in restored garden modules. Walkways were clear and safe. Environmental screens displayed growing ecosystems. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Elias turned from a control panel and froze when he saw her. Silence filled the air. You? She said softly, looking around in disbelief. What is this? He struggled to find the right words. I wanted to see if it could work, he said finally. Her eyes moved across the space again, understanding slowly forming. This is my design, she whispered. He nodded carefully. How do you know about it? She asked. The question hung between them like a fragile thread. Elias felt the weight of truth pressing against him. He knew he could not hide it forever. "I need to tell you something," he said gently. She watched him closely. "I didn't mean to," he began. "But when I found your diary, I read a few lines before I realized what it was." Her expression changed. Surprise first, then hurt. "You read it?" she asked quietly. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "It was an accident. I closed it as soon as I understood."
She looked away, processing.
"That was private," she said.
I know," he replied, "and I regret it."
"But your dream stayed with me. I couldn't forget it." She walked slowly through the space, touching a restored railing, examining the growing plants. "You built this because of my words?" she asked. "Because of your idea?" he said. She stopped and faced him. "I thought no one believed in it," she said softly. "I do," he answered simply. Emotion flickered across her face, anger fading into confusion. Then, something warmer. She looked around again, this time with wonder instead of disbelief. "It's real," she whispered. He nodded. "It's only the beginning," he said. "But it can become more." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed softly, a sound filled with both relief and amazement. "You humans are strange," she said. He smiled slightly. "That's what everyone says." As they stood together in the growing space, neither realized how much their actions were already changing the station. Observers had noticed unusual activity. Council members had begun asking questions. Rumors spread quickly. Something new was growing on Helios Ring, not just a restored habitat, but a symbol of possibility. And it had started with a diary that was never meant to be read. Lyra stood quietly in the restored habitat, her eyes moving slowly across the growing space. Soft lights reflected on newly cleaned surfaces. Small garden modules hummed gently as they recycled air and moisture. The place no longer felt abandoned. It felt alive. Elias waited a short distance away, unsure whether she would be angry or grateful. He understood that he had crossed a personal boundary by reading her diary, even by accident. Trust was fragile, especially for someone who had already felt ignored by others. She turned toward him, finally. "I don't know how to feel," she said honestly. "That's fair," he replied. "You don't have to decide anything now." She studied his face, searching for signs of pride or expectation. Instead, she saw only quiet patience. "You didn't ask permission," she said. "I know," he said softly. "And I'm sorry for that. I should have told you sooner. But I also didn't want to take your dream away from you by talking about it before I knew it could work." She walked slowly past him, touching the edge of a newly installed railing. "Most people dismissed my idea before they even looked at it," she said. "You started building without even knowing me." Elias shrugged slightly. Humans sometimes try first and explain later. She smiled faintly despite herself.
I noticed.
They walked together through the habitat. Some human workers waved politely from a distance, continuing their tasks without interrupting. Lyra watched them with curiosity. "They're helping you?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. "I didn't ask directly, they just joined when they saw something worth doing." Lyra stopped near a garden section where small plants had begun to grow under artificial sunlight. She reached out and gently touched a leaf. "This looks exactly like my design," she said quietly. "I followed your ideas," he admitted. "But there's still a lot missing. This place needs more than repairs. It needs a purpose." She looked at him carefully. "It already has one," she said. "It's hope." For the first time since arriving, she looked genuinely happy. Over the next few days, Lyra began visiting the habitat regularly. At first she observed quietly, unsure of her role in something that had grown from her private thoughts. But Elias encouraged her to share suggestions. He listened carefully whenever she spoke, adjusting systems according to her vision. Other species started appearing too. Some came out of curiosity, drawn by rumors of a shared space built without council approval. Others came because they felt unwelcome elsewhere on the station. Small traders, young researchers, and travelers without status found comfort in the calm environment. Lyra noticed how humans interacted differently from most species. They welcomed newcomers without asking about rank or power. They shared tools and ideas freely. They made mistakes openly and learned from them without fear. One evening, as they worked together adjusting environmental settings, Lyra asked, "Why are humans like this?" Elias looked up from his console. "Like what?" "You believe in things before they exist," she said. "Most species wait for proof first." He thought for a moment. Maybe because humans come from a place where survival depended on imagining better futures, he said. We had to believe things could improve, even when reality was difficult. She considered his words thoughtfully. As the habitat grew, so did attention from the rest of the station. Security drones began monitoring entrances more closely. Council representatives sent inquiries about unauthorized construction. Some species viewed the project as inspiring, while others worried it might disrupt established power structures. One morning, a formal notice appeared on the main entrance display. Unregistered development detected. Council review pending. Lyra's excitement faded slightly when she read it. "They're going to shut it down," she said quietly. "Maybe," Elias admitted. "Or maybe they'll see its value." "They didn't before," she said. "That was before it existed," he replied gently. Instead of stopping, they continued working. Volunteers increased as word spread. An aquatic species helped design water features. A small insect-like community contributed efficient recycling systems. Artists from several cultures painted murals celebrating cooperation. The habitat slowly transformed into a living example of unity rather than just a concept. Lyra began speaking more confidently to visitors, explaining the purpose of the space. She shared her dream openly for the first time, without fear of being dismissed. Each positive reaction strengthened her belief in herself. Meanwhile, some council members grew uneasy. Reports described humans leading a project without formal approval, gathering support across multiple species. Political tension rose quietly. One evening, while reviewing system data, Elias noticed a sudden drop in power levels. "That's strange," he muttered. Lights flickered briefly. Environmental controls slowed. Lyra felt the change immediately. "What's happening?" she asked. "Someone redirected power from our grid," he said, typing quickly. "It's not a malfunction." The habitat dimmed as systems struggled to maintain stability. Volunteers gathered nervously, unsure what to do. Lyra felt fear rising inside her. The dream she had only just begun to believe in seemed fragile again. Elias stood calmly. "Everyone stay calm," he said. "We can fix this." He coordinated with human technicians and other volunteers. Some rerouted emergency power lines, while others stabilized environmental controls manually. The situation required teamwork and creativity rather than authority. Slowly, light returned to the habitat. Cheers broke out among the volunteers. Lyra watched Elias, realizing how steady he remained even under pressure. He did not panic or blame anyone. He simply focused on solutions. Later, they sat together near a newly built gathering area. "That wasn't an accident," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "Why would someone try to stop us?" "Change makes some people uncomfortable," he said, "especially when it comes from unexpected places." She looked down. "I used to think my dream failed because it wasn't good enough," she said. "Now I think maybe it scared people."
He nodded slowly.
New ideas often do. Days later, an official council delegation arrived. Representatives from multiple species entered the habitat, observing everything carefully. Their expressions were difficult to read. Lyra felt nervous, but Elias encouraged her to speak. "This space is for cooperation," she said clearly. "It reduces conflict and improves shared resources." The representatives listened but did not respond immediately. They requested time to evaluate. After they left, uncertainty returned. "Do you think they'll accept it?" she asked. "I don't know," Elias said honestly, "but they can't ignore what's already happening here." As night fell, Lyra returned to her diary. Her hands hesitated before writing, remembering how Elias had accidentally read her private thoughts, yet she no longer felt the same loneliness as before. She wrote about rebuilding, about unexpected allies, and about how humans turned ideas into action. Back in the habitat, Elias watched the lights glow softly against the dark of space outside the windows. Volunteers laughed together nearby. Sharing food from different cultures, he realized something important. This project was no longer just about a dream or a diary. It had become a living example of what humanity often brought to the galaxy, the ability to connect people who never expected to stand together. And whatever decision the council made next, something had already changed forever. The days after the council inspection felt longer than usual. Everyone in the shared habitat continued working, but a quiet tension followed every conversation. Volunteers still planted gardens, repaired panels, and welcomed newcomers. Yet the question remained in every mind. Would the council allow the habitat to exist, or would everything be shut down? Lyra tried to focus on helping visitors, but she often found herself watching the entrance, expecting officials to arrive with final orders. Elias noticed her worry, even when she tried to hide it. "They haven't made a decision yet," he said gently one morning while adjusting a lighting system. "No news doesn't always mean bad news." She nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. "I spent so long believing this would never happen," she said quietly. "Now that it's real, I'm afraid to lose it." Elias paused and looked at her. "You didn't build this alone," he said. "Even if the council tries to stop it, the idea itself won't disappear." She smiled faintly at his words. More species began visiting the habitat every day. Some came out of curiosity, others because they felt safer there than in the more formal parts of the station. Conversations flowed easily. Different cultures shared food, music, and stories. Small children of various species played together without understanding the political divisions that adults created. Observers from other sectors noticed something unusual. Conflicts that often occurred between rival groups seemed to fade inside the shared habitat. People listened more. Arguments turned into discussions rather than confrontations. Despite this success, rumors spread that some powerful council members viewed the project as dangerous.